Okay, getting close to the 9 o'clock hour here on the Source Media Network. I want to welcome everybody to a brand new show, the Motorcycle Cannonball Chronicles. Getting ready to start in just a few minutes here. We're going to let the social media channels fill up. Make sure you hit the share button. Get all your friends in on the action. It's going to be a fantastic show tonight. Stick around. In just about 9 minutes, we're going live with episode number 1, Motorcycle Cannonball Chronicles. Lots of people piling in already. Good to see you guys. John Bugkiller Baker, welcome. Coming in from Washington State, Barkley Smashy's here. Everybody helping us kick it off. Chris Summer Simmons in the house. We want to thank everybody tonight from our Choppertown family. The Choppertown Network, always so supportive of our shows over here at Source Media. Everyone from Cycle Source, welcome. Argentina in the house. It's going to be a fantastic show. Michael Lichter sharing some iconic Cannonball images with us tonight. And Bill Redensel from Harley Davidson, Harley's archivist at the museum. It's going to be a great show. Stick around. Okay, it's picking up. Franklin Chopper's in the house. Team Not a Chance, welcome to the show. Do you have to take off your helmet? Not if you don't want to, you know? Sometimes I call out for security just because I need a hug. Gonna get started here in just a few minutes. We're about 4 minutes away. Letting the social media channels fill up so we have a good crowd for this first episode, the premiere episode of what I expect is going to be a fantastic show. I think we're getting kind of close now. We'll probably start a couple minutes early because after all, we did come in a couple minutes late. Let's get this party started. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the first episode of Motorcycle Cannonball Chronicles.
Hey there, Cannonball Nation. It's Jason Sims. I'm coming to you live from the Cannonball offices. This is really completely live, unedited, pure Cannonball fun. We have some really great stuff for you tonight. We're going to dive into a lot of different things on this show. We're really super excited. I want to give you an in-depth look at the history and the stories of what makes the Cannonball and what makes it one of the most epic motorcycle journeys in existence today. I'm going to be bringing you stories of the riders, the support crew, the sponsors. Really this has been just a long time idea and collaboration of both mine, Lonnie Isom Jr., and one of my co-hosts tonight, Rob Nussbaum of Retrocycle. Really, we've been talking about this for a long time. We've been really wanting to do it. Now with the technology that the Cycle Source Network has done, them running the controls behind the scenes, we can make this a reality now and hopefully make this a weekly venture for you to kind of come in and take an in-depth look at the Cannonball. We want to just make sure that everybody's interacting. I want to see as many comments as possible. Chime in where you're from, give us some memories. We'll be chiming in from social media, ask some questions while you're doing it. If you're on the YouTube channels, make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe, all that kind of good stuff. So you get all the history and can be a part of this and get everything. Really, I just want to kind of start out with, just a little bit of a history lesson on the Motorcycle Cannonball, how it got its origination. And for those people that don't know exactly where we started, where it came from and all that kind of stuff. So really one of the first things I want to start with was the man's vision that kind of put this whole thing together, which was Lonnie Isom Jr. Many know Lonnie as one of the most iconic people and the person that really changed the history of antique motorcycling. I mean, he grew up in it from, his early years under his father, Lonnie Isom. This was just an idea that he came up with. And in 1999, he really set this in motion and put this idea into fruition. It really just started out in 1999 that him and a few buddies kind of got together at a few swap meets, and he started sharing this idea of taking these old archaic machines and doing a coast-to-coast event with him and his buddies. So he decided to put this whole Motorcycle Cannonball journey together, set up a website, put the website online, ended up going on a fishing trip for a week. During that fishing trip, when he released this whole thing, it really just blew up in the antique motorcycle world that, hey, this is really going to happen. This is something that hasn't been done. And, so everybody and a lot of different people really came on board with it. Nobody knew what to expect because this was something that never been done before. So really the first Cannonball that Lonnie put together in 2010, which took place from Kitty Hawk, North Carolina to Santa Monica, California, was really just a true testament of the antique motorcycle community and everything that happened. For that first iconic event, I believe there was 56 riders that took place in this thing, and it went from Kitty Hawk to Santa Monica, California over the span of 16 days. Everything was pre-1915 motorcycles. It was, like I said, it was just a really, really true testament. Really, after the first event that Lonnie put together, I mean, this thing just really gained traction and really, really took off. The response that he got out of this and from the antique motorcycle community was really second to none. I mean, it was something that now everybody had to get on the list and do, and just really put antique motorcycling on the map. We get into, in 2012, we have the second Cannonball, which took place. We started in Newburgh, New York, and ended in San Francisco, California. This particular race was started with 76 riders. It was all on pre-1929 motorcycles, a little bit older generation, a little bit newer technology, still the same troubles of going across logistics, everything that has to do with the Cannonball, which we'll get into with a lot of these stories coming up. By the third Cannonball 2014, this was a really event where we stepped it up again and went to a pre-1937 motorcycle, which included what a lot of people call cheater bikes, stuff that included overhead valves and recirculating oil and some of that stuff. For people that aren't familiar with some of that stuff, we'll kind of dive into that and some of the stories and tribulations of what some of the riders go through and what some riders consider, cheater bikes and what are really archaic bikes and all that kind of stuff. So the third Cannonball, the Daytona to Tacoma washing, was actually one of our longest rides that we've ever done. That was approximately 4,300 miles. And we started that ride with 96 riders. Another great epic journey. That happened to be my very first Cannonball that I got to compete in and actually ride as a rider. Holds a special place in my heart. It forever changed my life in the way that I do things and conduct business, and the friends that I've garnered out of it, and so on and so forth. And really after the 2014 is when I came on board with my dear friend Lonnie to help him take the Cannonball to the next level, help him with the organization. It really just kind of started rolling into being a monster with the response that we were getting from the public and also riders that wanted to take part in the event. So I came on board and helped them out, and we started really putting together the next epic journey of man versus machine. We dubbed it the race of the century. It was going to take place in September 2016. What made this race so special was we started with pre-1916 motorcycles. So you had to have a 100-year-and-old motorcycle to compete in this event. It was just another, again, one of those epic journeys. We started that race with 101 riders. We journeyed from Atlantic City, New Jersey to Carlsbad, California. Really, this was the true test of all these machines. By this one being the fourth event, people were starting to figure out exactly what it takes to make these machines go across the country with little to no trouble. And so really this race right here really put the Motorcycle Cannonball on the map, and the true challenges that it brought. That brings us to the last one that we did, the fifth Cannonball, which took place in 2018. We another epic race. I mean, you'll hear me constantly use the words epic and life changing and all these kind of different things. I mean, it truly is. From everybody that we hear from, that we bring on the show, from the riders, the support crew, even the general public, will always refer to something as life changing to this event. And that's really what makes this event so great is, you know, you don't have to be a rider, you don't have to be a support crew for this event to really to play on your heart. So anyway, in 2018, we went from Portland, Maine to Portland, Oregon. Just a great ride. We went through so much stuff, from seeing rain, snow, sleet, hail, all the different factors that you know, make this a challenge. Some of the most beautiful country that we've ever been through, you know, going through Glacier Park and the Columbia River and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it just really made the event truly unbelievable. You know, my role as a promoter of the event is, okay, what is next? What do we bring to the table next to make this journey so epic, and to make it better than the one before? And that's something that I've been working on for the last 2 years. This will bring us to the next event this September. You know, for me, this is one of the most challenging events for myself, having to deal with everything that's going on in the current society with the COVID-19, and, you know, businesses shutting down, and, you know, the financial ruins. You know, so I really just kind of stepped up, and, you know, this has been a really great journey for us here on the staff. And, you know, we're super excited to bring you the next installment of the Motorcycle Cannonball, which will happen this September. Our official dates this year are September 10th through the 27th. We're changing it up just a little bit. Generally, we go from coast to coast, from the East Coast to the West Coast. We decided to change it up this year. We decided to start at the tip of Canada, up in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. From there, we'll head over to the East Coast. We'll touch the East Coast in Myrtle Beach, and then we'll end up in South Padre Island, Texas, which happens to be on the Gulf Coast. You know, everybody's like, wow, this isn't a real coast to coast. Well, truly it is. You know, that area up in Sault Ste. Marie is considered the fourth coast. So we're going from the fourth coast to the East Coast to the Gulf Coast. And, you know, the mileage on this thing, it'll probably be one of the hardest runs that we have to do, as far as mileage per day that we have to do to get it done within the allotted time period. Something else that's special about this is we're actually starting on the Canadian border and ending on the Mexican border. So that's something that hasn't been done yet on the Motorcycle Cannonball, and we're excited to bring that to you. Let's see here. Let's just kind of go over some of the stuff that we're planning on putting the show together. Really, this idea came to us, putting a show together like this somewhere around 2013, 2014. My friend Rob Nussbaum, who will end up being my co-host tonight, me and him have spent many hours on the phone of how we can come up with a media for the Motorcycle Cannonball to bring to you guys live, pre-recorded, however it comes about. And, you know, just to give you the stories and the tribulations of what really happens with the Cannonball, and give you guys really a really great inside look of what's going on. You know, again, I want you guys to chime in. Let's hear some of your stories. Let's comment. I'd like to see where you guys are from. You know, just support the show. The more interaction that you guys do, the more interaction that you'll get from us, the better the show will be. And, hopefully we can bring you this weekly and keep this thing going. So right now I'd like to bring on my co-host, Rob Nussbaum from Retrocycle. Robbie.
What? Yeah, I hold on. Yeah, I got to talk to Jason. I will tell them that. Okay. You guys remember Gumby, right? From the Cannonball? He just wants to say hello. He's missed you all. He escaped from the Doobie Brothers roadbox to be here tonight. He hopes you're all safe and you're all doing well. And I'm personally very excited to do this show. We've been talking about it a long time. Chris and Heather at Cycle Source, thank you so much. Let's take a look at them if we can. Chris, are you there? Can we see you? They're at the controls right now.
There's behind the scenes.
Yeah, they're at the controls. They're taking care of stuff. Heather's going to check in on social media for us tonight. Chris is running the controls for us. Chris, thank you so much for putting this on. There they are. All right, cool. All right, so I'm pretty excited. Bill Redenzel, Michael Lichter. This is going to be a lot of fun. And I'm truly honored to be part of the Cannonball family. I joined them in 2018. I was working kind of behind the scenes before that. I get calls from the road and ship engines out overnight to different locations, and really has been a pleasure to do this. So I think that's all I really have to say about that. And let's get started with the show. What do you think, Jason?
I think so. Let's, for the people that don't know, maybe before we get going, let's just kind of give them a little bit of insight on you. Can you give us a little bit of background and all that kind of stuff? And
well, this is kind of a dream come true. I worked in the motion picture industry in New York City for 30 years. And I always wanted to put two of my passions together, which was motorcycling and filmmaking. So, and I had launched a video magazine in 1997, and I was told motorcycles would never make it on television. Then came American Choppers, and we know what happened there. Right. So it's kind of faded a little bit, and hopefully this show will pique some interest in some people.
I think so. I mean, everybody that I come across that experiences anything that we're doing on this show, it's always like I keep going back. It's life-changing for them.
I think so. And if anybody gets involved, whoever's been involved or gets involved with the Cannonball, they're really going to see what motorcycle family is all about. It's a brotherhood, sisterhood. I see some people on social media here who I've met through the Cannonball, who I've met through social media. Chris Simmons, I worked as her mechanic for her and Pat and Dave Minerva on the last Cannonball, and we just had a blast. It was great.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's nothing better than being with your friends and being with motorcycles, no matter where you're at, whether it's on the Cannonball, whether it's, sitting in your garage, visiting your local shop. For most of us, it's a passion that we live, daily, hourly,
It's like a circus, right?
It is.
Yeah, it's a rolling circus. It's incredible when it comes into town, and the people who come out to see it, it's a crazy scene, man. It's great.
It is. So, yeah, I mean, we're, like I said.
As an aside, I just want to say something. Those of you tuning in on AMHN, I didn't break Facebook today. That wasn't my fault. We got, some reason everybody's inundated with posts to AMHN that they can't seem to get off their notifications. Not my fault. I didn't do it. So with that, we'll get back to our regular scheduled programming here.
Yeah, the love of social media, huh?
Yeah.
So, well, what do you think we should do? Do you think we should bring on our first guest, or?
Yeah, I think so. Let's see who's up first. I guess Michael Lichter's up first, right?
It is. Yeah. It's a great segment that we have coming up here. So.
And what's the segment called?
Picture's worth 1,000 words.
Of course it is. And if it's Michael's, it's worth 1,000,000 words.
That's priceless.
Okay, 1 second. It couldn't be
This is-
perfect. It couldn't be perfect, right?
The beauty of live TV.
Michael
Folks are seeing it
shapeshifted.
firsthand.
There we
Oh,
go.
there he is. Ooh.
Hey, there he is.
Did you unmute? Michael, we got you now. Sorry about that, buddy.
No problem.
Hey, Michael, how's it going?
Excellent. Hey, Rob, how's it going? Jason?
Good, Michael.
Chris?
How are you, man?
Good.
Excellent. Thanks, guys.
Good. Looking
I don't know
good.
if this is a good thing or not, saying a thousand words. Are you just saying I talk a lot?
We'll let you know, Michael.
Maybe that's part of the system that we got to keep it under 1,000 words.
Okay. You got to start the counter.
So we got this great thing, a picture's worth 1,000 words. It's really one of these segments that we plan on bringing people photographers such as Michael onto the show, showing an image and really describing what this image means and why it's so special to them. So why don't we just get into it and let's see the first image.
That's the first and only image. But this one I call Indian Morning. And it was shot in 2012. And it was in Washington, basically sunrise and Shinya coming down the road. And I love the shot. I just love the feeling of it. It represents a lot about the Cannonball for me. Early mornings out on the road. And this was one of the nice ones. I don't remember if that was the year that we rode through snow in Yellowstone, Jason, but we've had some days that weren't quite so nice. But this was really those beautiful mornings that just really stood out. And I never knew who I'm going to be next to. You know, I'll be riding along the road. We'll race ahead. My pilot, Dave, is awesome. Dave Przgocki gets me where I need to be. And sometimes we'll be waiting on the side of the road for a bike to come. We see it in the distance and we pull out alongside it, get ahead of it and start shooting. And you really, It's a lot about serendipity because you don't know where you're going to be at any given time or who you're going to meet up with or the weather. It's constantly changing for obviously 3,600 miles and all 5 trips that I've done. But this is just one of those where, to me, things come together nicely. You shoot some frames. I like the lens flare on the right side of the image, the way that it just gives that feeling of the bright sun coming into the lens. And I don't know if you could see it in the photo that's on screen, but there is a bird on the left side. And you'll have to tell me if people can see it or not. It's in the very far left, and it looks like
you can see it clear on the live stream. It's there.
Yeah.
Cool. So, and to me, that's sort of just like a little poignant finishing touch, the little something that it needed to finish the frame. And so it does it for me.
Yeah, this is such an iconic image. To me, this really speaks of what the Cannonball is about. Just you and your motorcycle in the best 2-lane back roads of America.
Yeah. And we've spoken about this a lot, Jason, how we hope that we come to these beautiful places. So much of what we see, this is really it's a beauty shot, I would call it, because so much of crossing America is not that beautiful. We've gone through parts of the country where you're going through, gas stations that are abandoned and a lot of things closed up, and this is
like Kansas.
This is
sorry for the Kansas guys.
Yeah, well, it's everywhere. You see parts of America are, falling behind, and unfortunate that sort of been left behind or just left to rot. And people have moved on into new places, but there is beauty everywhere you look as well. So you see both sides of it, and it sure is wonderful when you come to these spots.
Michael, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Tell the people about your riding position and how you see America when you do this.
Well, if you go back to the photograph, it's clearly I'm looking right at Shinya there and looking backwards. So I'm sitting backwards. In this case, I was on the back of in 2012, it was a Victory. And we did Victory, I think, for 3 Cannonballs. And no, 2 Cannonballs. We did Victory where they send a bike to the beginning, and then Harley did it in 2018, and I rode Jason's Indian in 2018. I rode Jason's. In 2010, I actually rode behind Carl Olson on a 53 panhead. He made a seat that's faced backwards, so we did the whole country on a 53 panhead. But I'm looking backwards, and people say, "Hey, how can you do it?" And I don't have any problem. The first time I did it, it wasn't. I know some people have gone 2 miles and thrown up and given up, but I never had a problem. And I've got over 25,000 miles backwards at this point, and I love it. You know, it's like this beautiful view of America. It's a picture window, nothing blocking me. There's no body or head in front of me. I'm back to back with Dave Brzezgocki, and we communicate. I have some radios, so I can tell him to speed up, slow down, or move ahead, things like that, or move to his left or right. So we're kind of positioning. He acts as my stabilizer. You know, he gets me where I need to be, and I start shooting. So, and you never really know what's happening because I'm looking backwards. So things are coming in the frame so fast. You know, trees and phone poles and things like that. And a lot of times what I do try to do, I slow the shutter speed down so that you get this blurry road and blurry tires. And to me, it almost feels like it's like they're gliding through water. And it's also the way you kind of feel when you're riding. When you're on a smooth road and you're just cruising, and it feels so good. It feels like you're going, like you're on water. It's that smooth. And that's the feeling I like to convey in my photos.
I'm surprised you never felt like you were going to fall asleep or anything like that, but I seen you in action, and you are wired, ready to get that shot.
I'm moving. So I'm hanging off. I do use a gyroscope most of the time, so that helps me stabilize things. But the rig weighs, I think it's probably about 18 pounds, and you're carrying it from sunrise till the end of the day. So and I have other gear. I have other cameras around me, so it's quite a bit to deal with. But you know, I've done a lot of shooting from the saddle where I hold the camera on the side, and I actually even had a cable release hooked up to my throttle so I could shoot a camera from my throttle thumb.
Oh, cool.
And then hold the camera with the left hand. So I had full use of the throttle and a brake and the shutter, which was great. I did everything focus, and exposure was all manual with my left index finger and thumb. So you just do what you got to do. You get by.
So for those amateur photographers out there, do you have any basic tips for them?
Wow. Well, first off, there's so many sides to photography. You know, half of my work was shooting in the studio. I do a lot of studio work, and then there's this location side. But you know, I think to somebody getting going, it's really easy to get stuck in content, and you get so stuck in what's going on that you just see that and you don't see what's around. And it's like I pointed out to me, that bird way on the left side of the photo made the image. You have to be conscious of everything. So to me, you have to think of it as it's hard anymore now that we look at everything on computers, but as a print. And this is one of my exhibition prints. I actually have blown this up to 40 by 60 inches, and it's spectacular.
Wow.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's spectacular. But you think of it as 2 dimensions. So instead of saying something's behind something, you say it's left or right, above or below. It's 2 dimensions. And if you start thinking of it that way as form and shape, and I think Chris Callan could probably chime in here too, as a painter and a visual artist, that you have to start seeing things as forms and shapes and balance, color, or black and white if you are, but tonalities, things like that. And less, you know, people get so caught up saying, "Oh, I got a shot of this guy," but they didn't see that the phone pole was growing out of the head, and this was here, and there's just all the distracting.
Well, and I think, Michael, that's one of the important things to mention here real quick, is that your art and photography is a very age-old practice of as captured. I think you need to talk about that for a second, because there's so many people in photography today. You can get an amazing photo by all the treatments and the right crop and everything else, but your photos literally are as captured.
Well, thank you. But, I can't say totally, because I've started cropping. I think about 6 years ago, I started cropping images. Maybe even 8 years ago. But prior to that, I went over 30 years without cropping images. I just did everything full frame, and I used to leave the edges and the sprocket holes in when I printed so you could see that it was full frame. So I have conceded that I crop now. But other than that, I'm not going to put a bird in the water on the rock there that wasn't there. And I'm not going to take the sun flare out. You know, a lot of people say, "Oh, that's bad. Why would you want the sun flare? It's a mistake. Get rid of it. And I go, well, A, it was there. It's part of the picture. And I think it adds to the picture.
That's an interesting thing. Missy and I were talking about that. There's an actual technical term for what those flares are. And it's neat how it crosses over from photography to motorcycles, because I picked this up way early on in studying books on photography and how to run a magazine and all that. But that's actually called an easy rider, right? Isn't that the name? That's the name of the term of those sun flares that skip across the screen. It's an easy rider.
Well, that would be really funny. I have to look that
Right?
up now.
I never heard that either.
I've never heard that either.
You know what strikes me though is most people will center this bike in the frame, and that's not always the way. You need to use your whole frame.
Well, that's it.
And I see you've done that by Shinya is off to the right, camera right a little bit, and you're using your full frame. So there are so many things going on. People shouldn't just get stuck on centering something in a frame and looking for just that to dominate the shot. They have to take in the whole picture.
Fibonacci's coil, right?
In using that train of thought there, I've had people, not necessarily about this picture specifically, but they'll look at a picture and they may see this and say, I have a shot of Shinya wearing the same thing on the bike. It's great. I have it hanging up on my wall. It's just like this. But
yeah, it is.
They see it as a picture, they just see it as a shot of a person and they don't see what's around it. So again, that's my advice to people that are really interested in photography. Look at the whole thing and think of it as a flat, like a piece of paper, left, right, what's above, what's below, shapes, light, dark, forms, shadows. You look at all those things and it's not just who's in it and what they're doing.
Exactly.
Right on. Hey, listen, I hate to bust in on you guys, but people were asking questions on social media. Marianne Jarvis wants to know your favorite camera, and Walter Curo wants to know if you make prints available. And to that second question, I'm going to answer with a little screenshot of lichterphoto.com. And yes, you can buy prints of almost anything that's in Michael's library. Go and check him out today. But I'm going to spin it back to you, Michael, for the question of what's your favorite camera.
Let me just say hi to Walter. Hi, Walter.
Hey, Walter.
To finish on the print issue, I'm actually getting ready for an exhibition at the Buffalo Chip, the Sturgis Buffalo Chip, where I do a show every year. Although I act as curator. This is my 20th year. And then every 5 years, I show my own photography. So I'll have about 110 prints, some as large as 40 by 60, and nothing smaller than 12 by 18. And so it's a pretty big exhibition. That's what I'm getting ready for now. And those are available. Those are my exhibition limited edition prints. They're signed and numbered. And then we do have smaller prints available, everything on the site. Answer to the question about the camera. There's a question of what's my favorite camera and what I think would be the best camera for people to use. So the best camera that I think people can use is the one that they have available to them all the time, and that's their cell phone. And you can get some great pictures with it. Admittedly, I don't know that I'd be blowing up 40 by 60, even though Apple says you can. But it's what you have and it's what you use. Now, I've seen people go out and buy a fancy camera and spend a lot of money on an SLR and have all the controls. They get intimidated by it, or it's just too big and heavy and they don't take it with them. And I've actually had that experience. There was a lens I had. It was a 300 millimeter 2.8, a beautiful lens, but heavy as sin. And I kind of put it away because it was just too big and heavy. And even though I liked it, but I just put it away. And it sat for 2 years. And that was my limit. I said, okay, 2 years, it's gone. Time to sell it, because I wasn't using it. I wouldn't mind having one back again now. But, you go through changes. Now, in terms of systems, I happen to use Nikon, but Canon is equally good. And there's Sony. People are loving Sony. Fuji has great. They're all good systems. Now, believe it or not, this summer I'll be on Nikon. I don't know if I should admit this, but 51 years on Nikon.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? That's insane. But I'm comfortable with it. When they come out with a new camera, it has the feel, so I've stuck with it. There are times when Canon was better for lenses and times when Nikon's better for this, but kind of goes back and forth. Now, in terms of, a camera that's, what do they call it, where it's not through the lens. Chris, you could help me on this. What Sony makes, I forget what.
Rangefinder.
Not a rangefinder, that's something else, but where basically a rangefinder, it's a digital camera. The viewfinder is digital viewfinder instead of seeing
Wow.
through the
So it's
lens.
LCD. That
Yeah,
LCD screen,
and
right on.
and that's what Sony has staked their reputation on, and they're very good cameras. They loaned me one for about a month to try, and I was really keen to. I had friends that use it and say, "Oh, you got to do it. It's lighter. You'll love it." I was so intimidated by all the controls. It was like a million different settings. That's without exaggeration. You start going into those controls, and I got lost. And really, if I just could have lens aperture and shutter speed, I'd be truly happy. And there are some, I have one little camera, it's a Fuji that's like that. It feels old school, and it is a digital camera, but it feels like that. And I kind of like that. I wish they would have more retro cameras that get simpler. They're far too complicated now.
Excellent.
So I don't know if I really answered the question. Basically,
Yeah.
anything works, whatever works for you, whatever feels good, because they all make good cameras.
Let's one last thing before we go here. Going back to riding the backwards, has there ever been a time that you feel sketched out? And I kind of seen something firsthand, and that's why I asked.
Well,
Have you ever
probably
been
saw it, and I
surprised?
didn't, though. You'll have to tell me about it, Jason. 'Cause I'm sitting
Last
backwards.
Cannonball,
What was it?
actually at my house, doing a hill climb on a Harley bagger.
Oh, yeah. Well, again, I'm not
That's
looking
right.
forward, so that's probably a good thing. There was a time when I was shooting Bacon, Dan Carr, down in Texas. And we were out in the hill country of Texas, outside of Austin. And it gets really kind of this rolling 2-lane roads. And we're going up and down, and I'm shooting away. I have about 8 bikes behind me or something, 10 bikes. And all of a sudden we come up and we go down, and I hear, whoa! And my rider, I don't recall who it was that day, but apparently there was a washout in the road. And when that happens, it gets so slippery. It's like ice. It's so slippery.
Oh God.
Right.
You know, green slime and stuff. We come in there, and a bike in front went down, and then the bike in front of us went down, and we went down. And so, but again, I was down before I knew anything, and I jumped off. I was a bit pinned. Somebody helped me get my leg out, and then the person in front of me had to get the bike off them. So it was a bit of a mess, but it was over before I knew what was happening. So I can't say, you know.
I can say.
My wife is chiming in here.
Riding backwards on a hill climb is not allowed.
Oh, see, now Catherine has just chimed in. You blew it, guys. You admitted that it was in a hill climb backwards on a bike, on a Harley. So the first rule is you don't tell all.
Yeah. I have a
limit. I don't lie, but you just sort of limit what you tell.
I have a last question for you from me. If somebody asks you about the Cannonball, how do you describe it to them?
Wow. You know, I think the best term I use these days is an adventure. And I love adventures. In the last year, I was riding in Nepal. That was an adventure. I was in Siberia photographing ice racing. And I don't want to do, I'm getting tired of things that are too predictable. Now, you could say I've done 5 Cannonballs plus the chase. And so maybe it's predictable, but I do feel it changes every time. And there's new people, it changes, the route changes, the bikes change, the weather changes, the roads change. There's a lot to see, and each one has its own character. So I look at it as an adventure. And every day, you just don't know what the day is going to bring. You know, you sort of start the day, and where are you going to end up? What's it going to be like? And to me, that makes life fuller and richer. And that's how I love to live. You know, I mean, you go on the Cannonball, and from 2010, you could probably tell people much of the route and what you did one day and what you did the next day. But do you remember what you did 2 weeks after that or 2 weeks before? Probably not. So adventures make life really rich. You know, it makes your senses so alive and aware. And I think it allows you to be passionate about everything, about life and about what you see, about what you do and what you love to do. So that's it for me. But I will say, you know, I've done every Cannonball, and I've done every mile of every Cannonball, including the days when there were 2 days that were washouts. One was for a hurricane. And I said, we have to ride. I needed to do every mile. So we've done every mile of every Cannonball. And that feels really cool. I love that we've done that.
That's awesome.
It's been great. It's been, and all 5 together have been an adventure together. And, it's a big part of my life now, 10 years.
We really love having you on it. I mean, just you alone being on the adventure with us is, something it's kind of epic to the riders, just the experience that they get of being professionally photographed and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's a lot of feedback that I get is like, oh man, this is one of the best experiences ever that I've ever had, that, I get to ride 6 inches from a motorcycle at 60 miles an hour and get my picture taken. And these images turned out just crazy awesome.
I do get a little close to people, and closer than some people like. The first Cannonball, I remember in Daytona, where was the first Cannonball?
Kitty Hawk.
Kitty Hawk, yes. So we're in Kitty Hawk. I know that we were on a pier. I was thinking Daytona for a minute. So we were on the Kitty Hawk Pier. Bill Rudenzel was there. I know he's coming on, and photographing him. But I didn't know a lot of these people. It was new because I was new in the antique world. I didn't know as much about it. And a lot of people really questioned me. They was like, what are you doing? And some people gave me a really hard time. And it took a while to get accepted. But I think over time now with 5 Cannonballs, it's 10 years. I feel like I'm providing something that, people have snapshots of themselves riding, but I think it's really cool that, like that picture of Shinya, that's Shinya, but I have pictures of every Cannonball rider that are equally as good, that are coming down the road, and where else do you get them? It's cool. And it's fun for me to do it. It's fun for me to be able to offer that and for people to enjoy it, and hopefully have it for years.
Guys, let me break in here for a second. Heather, are you there? Can you tell us what social media wants to ask Michael?
Michael, the biggest question right now for social media is, when are you going to write a book about your life and your experiences? Because we all want it. Everybody wants it. Chris Summer Simmons wants it. I want it. Everybody wants the book, Michael.
They're saying bestseller.
Bestseller.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't know.
You have to.
Yes.
You have to. Either that, or you need to let Chris and I come spend a week with you, and you just sit down and show us pictures and tell us stories.
There you go.
And let us record it.
Interesting for me. I do have 11 books now.
But about you and your.
Well, what I was going to say there is that every book and every photograph, in a sense, is about me. Like, I think every photograph, yes, it's about the subject, it's about what's going on. Then there's the formal side of looking at pictorially as a 2-dimensional object. But it's also, I think every photograph, in a sense, is about the photographer. There's a piece of me in everything that I do. And for me, looking back at all my photographs, and you can imagine there's quite a few of them, there's so many memories. I mean, each one triggers so many memories. It's amazing. And I could look back. I posted one on social media 2 days ago, and there was a group of guys. There was no bike in the shot. And I always try to have bikes in the photos. But in this one, Sean, my son, loved it so much. We worked together and hang out a lot. And he saw that image and he just started laughing. There's a group of maybe 15 guys, all like climbing up on a wood wall. And they're like looking at something. And what it is they've punched out all the knot holes in it, and it's the ladies' bathroom. And it's 1984 at the Harley Rendezvous in New York. It's like
bikers.
A moment in time. It was sometimes flashing through. I probably wouldn't have thought much, but Sean saw it and he had such a laugh. I said, okay, I'll post it and see what people think. But yeah, there's so many memories going back to the 70s when I started photographing this. And I actually have photography. I was in the darkroom already in 1968. I mean, I photographed the first Earth Day in New York in the late 60s and all sorts of stuff back then. And it's all memory. So my life is wrapped up in the photos. And I don't know, for some reason, I don't feel like I need to write about it. It's there.
Well, social media would disagree because the comments are going crazy. They want the book.
Yeah.
You may not have a choice.
Quick question, photographer to photographer on film. What's your favorite f-stop? Do you have one?
I'm very specific about f-stops. So
okay, so
maybe
let's
ask
have
the
it.
wrong person about it because a lot of people just set the cameras on automatic and go for it.
Right.
I'm kind of a booger for sharpness. Now I'll say that, And at the same time, sometimes I look at a photo and it's not sharp for some other reason. I say, well, that's okay. So in a sense, I have a rule, but I break the rule as well. When I want things sharp, I want them tack sharp. I mean, I like them like a razor blade. And so for me, I have very good lenses, like f1.4 is a prime lens, and no lens is slower than f2.8. But
Right.
I don't shoot that any faster than 5.6. And my
5.6 seems to be a magic number out there.
well, I don't want to go less than that, but I really like 8. Now, of course, if I'm looking for depth of field and I want to blur out a background,
Right. You want to stop down.
There may be rules and stuff, but in general, for me, the sweet spot's 8 and 11, between 8 and 11. I love it. And then, you know, on my prime, I like to shoot at 2.8, but it's
Well,
a
in the
1.4 lens.
in the film business, we used to have a joke that said we like to shoot with available light, and that was every available light on the truck. So,
There you go. We do what it takes. We do whatever
Right.
it takes.
and one of the DPs used to say, "I like to stop down." That was his. So anyway, that's enough of me.
All righty. Well, I'm sure it's enough of me too. I think I went over my 1,000-word limit, guys. The alarm should have gone off.
And we're itching to bring Bill in here. So
Yeah.
with
So
that-
we just want to remind everybody that this is a weekly series that we're going to be doing. Pictures worth 1,000 words. Again, we want to thank Michael for coming on, sharing this iconic image with us, and sharing his time with us and kind of his background of what he's done with the Cannonball. You know, I think now, Rob, I think it's a good time to take a quick break. We're going to throw one of our Cannonball sponsors in here while we regroup, bring on our next guest, and we'll be back here in just a few seconds.
I want to say thank
Thanks
you,
again,
Jason.
Michael.
Hi, I'm Tom. I'm with Banks Brothers Motorcycles. One of the things I want to show you today is our new improved engine puller. George has made some significant changes in the design that have really made the puller become what we think it can be. And what was it, George? What did you change?
The changes to this machine has been in the arms and in the hands. We put heim joints in the hand to allow rotation of the engine, which makes it easier to get it in and out of the frame, because everyone knows them Harley engines are tight. With the angle change, we have equal clamping pressure on them. And over here we have what's called the posi lock, which allows this to be locked in place and the engine can't swing from side to side. With these improvements, we're pretty confident it'll be a good machine.
And we're going to show you just how easy it is to pull the motor out of the bike right now. What we have is a 36 knuckle. George is actually going to come in, make contact with the cylinders, tighten it down, and he'll pull it out of there. What are you doing now, G?
The first thing we do is tighten the hands on the cylinders. That stabilizes everything. Then we have a posi lock, which is just 2 simple screws we screw down so you have no side-to-side play with this mechanism. When that's complete, you're ready to lift it up, rotate it, and bring the assembly out of the frame. And that's easily accomplished with a couple pumps of this hydraulic jack. You see the motor starting to move, and it centers itself due to the heim joints.
The heim joints have changed everything with the engine puller. We were really struggling to get the motor at this point right here out of the bike. The heim joints have changed everything for us. It allows us to take it out with total ease, and you know, we get the movement that we need.
This allows no side play once the motor's in place, and it keeps it safe, it can't fall out, and it's really worked well.
It's just that easy. We really feel that we have the tool the best it's been, where it's a really productive product and that we really feel strong about what it can do in the marketplace. Visit BanksBrothersMotorcycles.com to order your Banks lift.
And we're back. How about that? The Banks lift, great product. Tom and George Banks will both be riding here on the next 2020 Cannonball. Tom did his first Cannonball last year on 2018. Of course, he got addicted to Cannonball fever. He partaked in our new event, the Cross Country Chase, which we'll get into one of these episodes and give you some insights on that. What do you think, Rob?
Well, it doesn't hurt that Tom Banks puts a 1936 knucklehead on that lift. So if he's going to trust that lift to a 36 knucklehead, I'd be good enough for me.
That lift has probably seen half of the knuckleheads, 36 knuckleheads in existence.
Well, he owns half of them, doesn't he?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Tom, we love you, brother. Hope you're out there watching.
I just talked to him here shortly. He's on the road. He's hunting motorcycles.
It's what he
So,
does.
That's what he does, and he does it good. So
who's our next guest? Come on, let's bring
who's
him
our
on.
next guest? Our next guest is one of my great friends. Super excited to have him on tonight. Love staying in Milwaukee with this guy. He knows all the great spots to go eat. He's probably one of the most knowledgeable people that I know as far as Harley parts of all eras, from the early 1900s to modern day stuff. Nobody can touch him on his knowledge of motorcycle Harley history. We have no other than Bill Redenzel from the Harley Davidson archives with us tonight. Woo!
Hi,
What's up, Bill?
Hey, wow. I don't know. There's some pretty smart guys out there that I think could keep up with me.
I don't know. You're my go-to guy. I mean, that's my first crack. I was kind of thinking tonight that you would be, coming live from like some little hole in the wall eatery, that you're so famous for taking me to.
Everything's still kind of shut down around here, in Milwaukee, as far as, bars and restaurants and things like that. So I'm hanging pretty tight to home. Believe it or not, until this whole thing happened, I didn't realize like what kind of actual introvert I kind of am. I'm kind of digging it.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I love coming out there, spending time with you and the family. Always welcome me with open arms. It's always great to see these nice little eateries that you take me to. Like I said, it's really, really great.
Awesome. We love having you.
Yeah. So let's go. Rob, you got anything you want to bring up before we kind of jump into it?
Yeah, so Bill and I had a little chat this morning, and we got into his background a little bit. And so maybe you could tell us a little bit about your parents and how you got involved in your transition to motorcycles.
Yeah, sure. So believe it or not, I'm kind of the baby of the family. I have brothers and sisters that are in their late 60s, and I kind of came along late. My parents are World War II era moms and dads. And so my dad especially was not a motorcycle guy. He was an airplane guy his whole life, and was in World War II on the battleship Wisconsin. After that, designed radar for the first jet aircraft at a place called Hazeltine Electronics, believe it or not, that's still there in Long Island. And then my mom's dad owned a Dodge dealership, and he had a stroke in the early 50s. And so my dad gave up his career, came to Wisconsin, and took over my mom's family business at the dealership, which had been pretty established. My grandfather started it in the late 1920s. And that was his story. And so I came along in the 60s, and am a child of the early 70s, and I was blessed enough to have a sister and brother that were in college at the time, and came home and immersed their young 7-year-old younger brother into great music, and I spent a lot of time. I was kind of, being that I was younger, pretty independent, and got to spend a lot of time around my dad. My dad built airplanes, and so out of metal. And so I learned how to, build wing ribs, and I knew what a Clico was when I was 7 years old, and just around that, just watching him do things. And so was always into taking and creating or building, restoring, making something new again. That was really kind of my thing.
Excellent. So for the people that don't know, you competed in both the 2010 and the 2016 Cannonball Race of the Century. I'd like to just kind of start out and see, give me a little background of how you first learned of the Motorcycle Cannonball, and maybe some of the preparation that took place for the first event.
Absolutely. So very good friend of Lonnie Isom Jr. and was hanging out with him at Davenport. And I can't remember if it was actually 2008 or 2009. It was one of the 2 years. And he said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this ride, and it's going to be all pre-1915 motorcycles. What do you think? We're going to go across the country. Are you in? And I said, I think you're completely crazy, but I said, yeah, I'm all in for sure. And I remember, as you were talking about the fishing trip earlier, when he kind of posted it up there, and he kind of called me before that and said, hey, I'm going to put it up. Are you in? I said, yeah, I'm in. So went to work building my bike, and I think there was 90 of us that said we were in. There were 70 of us that actually paid, and the first year was $500 to get in. And I was like, that's not enough, dude. You're going to lose your butt on this thing. He's like, well, it's cool, And that's kind of the way he was. And so 70 of us paid, and I think 46 of us showed up at the starting line at the monument at Kitty Hawk. And, my goal was literally, if I could make it from the hotel to the starting point at the monument, I mean, all bets were off. That was it. That was like I had actually done what I had meant to do. And so, it was the first one was so unique. I mean, I was on it with people that I knew, and then there were a lot of people I didn't know. And then there were people that, were just like, this is a crazy thing I'm in, and literally had never ridden an antique motorcycle in their life until they got to the parking lot in Kitty Hawk. And so, we didn't know what it was going to be. And, we were all just trying to figure out, can we do this? Can we get everybody from one coast to the other? And, it was really, truly a special event. And, I've been involved in other ones, and 12, they came to the museum, at Harley-Davidson Museum where I work, and 16 rode again, obviously. And, but the first one was really kind of, lightning in a bottle, because no one knew what was going to happen. No one knew if anyone was going to make it, or, even have a perfect score, or any of those things. And there were people from all walks of life, all countries from around the world. It kind of reminded me of when I was a kid. I'd watch those Tony Curtis movies with like Terry Thomas, those, daring young men and their Johnny Jalopies, and those, magnificent young men and their flying machines. And I love those movies where they have that. And it was like, I'm going to be part of this, but it's going to be a motorcycle one. And it was really, it was pretty awesome.
Right. So tell us what you rode on the Cannonball for the very first one.
So the very first one, I rode a 1914 Harley-Davidson Model 10B. That's a single cylinder with a what they call a Merkel-style rigid front end, board track handlebars, drop handlebars, full rigid rear end, and full rigid seat. So I had absolutely no suspension, and it was basically a board tracker. I rode across the country. People were doing different things, 15 twins and stuff like that. And I was like, anybody can ride across the country on a Cadillac. I wanted to do it personally on a lawnmower. I always had like deep respect for those, like, guys from Iowa that get on their lawnmower and ride across the country. I just think that's so rad. And so it was kind of my version of that.
Right. No, exactly. So let's talk about what the preparation was, not knowing how long did it take you, what was the biggest part of getting ready for the 2010 Cannonball?
Yeah. So, and I tell people that, are getting into it, and they'll call me and they'll say, hey, so what's the deal? And I always tell them it's literally 100% of the Cannonball is preparation. And there's a few different, facets of that. Having your machine prepared is really great. And I'll never forget about 4 or 5 days in, Steve, I can't think of his last name, he's in New York, and he was just kind of tagging along, but he goes, man, little bike there, that's really prepared. And I was like, yeah, I did that. The second thing is physically prepared. You have to really be physically prepared because, especially me, I'm hunched over for 9 hours a day, a lot of weight on my wrists. Your neck is bent up, because you're hunched over. So I still kind of have a stinger to this day in my neck on long motorcycle rides. And then the last one, and probably the most important one, is to be mentally prepared, because you don't realize that, you might start out in the morning and it's 32 degrees and snowing. And by noon, when you get to the lunch stop, it's 100 degrees, if you come down out of the mountains. And so things like that. And to do, get on a bike, do 300 miles across Texas in 100-degree weather, get up the next day, do 300 miles across Oklahoma, and then do 300 miles, into, Arizona or wherever, you're headed, and do 900 miles in 3 days on a board tracker, it kind of zaps you in the head a little bit. And so you have to kind of, be prepared for that. And knowing what I did the first time, that's why it took me 6 years to do it again. It was like, I had to literally get myself like, I want to do this again. Right. And here I am sitting here, 4 years later, and people are like, you going on 2020? I'm like, no way in hell.
Who was your crew, Bill?
So my crew, and there's someplace around here, my crew, believe it or not, the first one was my family, and my wife and my 2 daughters, and they were 9 and 11, I believe, at the time. And they're like, come on, look at them. There they are. And a lot of people out there in TV land, I know these girls, and so I get to say hi. They were my crew. Unfortunately, on the first one, they were pretty young, and there were a lot of female riders on that ride. And so my daughters, at the end of the night, they would be like, over at Chris Simmons's spot helping her, or, with someone else. And I always remember, like, hey, you're stealing my crew here, So it was fun. On the second one in 2016, my wife did not come along, and Cassidy was actually a driving age, so she drove the support rig. And these two kind of handled all of the logistics. I mean, unloading our luggage and getting into hotels and handled all the day-to-day stuff while I was out on the road.
Just seeing it behind the scenes, the logistics that they
Cassidy.
did. The logistics that they did in 2016 were, completely professional. It was just a real good treat to watch these girls go across the country, and even the little journeys that they were on the side, stopping to see different monuments and the history behind everything. I mean, it was fun to watch them embracing the whole thing on a different level.
Yeah, the only 2-time all-female pit crew from the Motorcycle Cannonball right here. And you guys always talk about the Cannonball, Motorcycle Cannonball being family. That was what was really special for us, is that it truly was, our family, and I consider, the people that we've met great families. And like Michael Lichter was talking earlier about, the first time and shooting pictures on the pier and people not knowing who he was and, kind of not trusting him. I was the one, I grabbed him. I'm like, hey, I got my family here. I got my bike on the pier. Will you take our portrait? And that's the only family portrait that we have hanging in the house is Michael Lichter's picture of all of us.
That's great.
It's very special to us. He's a very special guy to us too.
Let me ask the girls a question.
Sure.
Are you girls ready?
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, you do have voices. That's good. That's good. Is this something you'll ever forget?
Definitely not. Not just the memories, but obviously the people have stayed in our lives, and being able to catch up with them every once in a while. And they've seen us grow up over the years. I was 11. 20 now, 21 now.
She can drink.
I know.
Well, she's got somebody good to drink with, Bill. Oh, that's great.
That's great. So I'm sure a lot of people are curious of what are the girls doing now? I mean, it's been 4 or 5 years since we've last seen them on the Cannonball. What are you guys up to now?
I just finished my freshman year of college at the University of Wisconsin Stout, and I'm a retail merchandising and management major.
Where's your Wisconsin accent? What'd you do with that?
It's getting way worse now that I live super up north, so it'll show up.
I graduated last year from college with a degree in culinary arts, and I just spent the last year in France studying French pastry.
Oh,
Good
beautiful.
for
Yeah, we
you.
saw your father posted some really nice pictures of some of the eats that he's been getting lately. And,
Oh yeah.
you're killing all of us, let me tell you.
The benefit of having of this whole pandemic is having a live-in shop. It's pretty good. But she's back working full time now here in Milwaukee, so she doesn't do a lot of cooking when she gets home anymore.
Oh,
But
damn.
for a couple months, it was great.
It really looked it.
Jason, you mentioned when you're in town, Bill takes you to all the great places to eat. Here's the question of the night: fresh cheese curds. What's up?
Mm-hmm.
What's the spot? I mean, I want them squeaky fresh, man.
Yeah, so if you want to get like really great squeaky fresh, you got to go right to like an actual dairy. So there's a great like CU Crest is up in Plymouth. You can go there and they literally bag them. My favorite place in the world is just outside of my hometown, in a little town called Rudolph, Wisconsin. It's Dairy State cheese, and you literally watch them, kind of scrape the curd off the top, scrape them into bags, bag them, and throw them on the counter, and they're just ridiculous. They're the best.
Right on.
Oh, that's great.
That's cool.
We'll get on bikes and I'll take you up there next time you're in Milwaukee, Chris.
Yes, sir. I'm down. I'm down.
Oh yeah. So let's kind of kick back to the motorcycles a little bit.
Yeah.
And
Thanks for having us.
Good to see you, girls. Thank you.
like I wanna know what your passion is with motorcycles. What drives you? What gets you up in the morning to live, eat, and breathe motorcycles?
Sure. So I've always been a big fan of things, and I do a class. I kind of help out with the class with MIAD, which is Milwaukee Industrial Art and Design. And I talk about timelessness. What is timelessness? And, so simply put, a 1936 knucklehead, we were talking about seeing that great engine lift that we saw earlier, pulling out of that 36 knucklehead. That's a timeless motorcycle. It looked good in 1936. It looks good today. There's a lot of things like that. 32 Duesenberg looks great. It could be something as simple as whether it's automobile, airplane. The GB looked great in 1932. It looks great today. A great watch. Why does Chrysler make the Challenger again? It looks virtually like, a 70 Challenger because it looked great then and looks great now. And so there's something about motorcycles that have that for me, and they really stick with me. And I just visually, they're very pleasing. And I'm in awe. A lot of my friends are designers at Harley, and I'm in awe of the work they do and of visualizing something and creating it. And and what's really great is on a daily basis, I'm in the archives, but a big part of our company is using our history and incorporating it into new products today. So when you take a look at the new Heritage Softail that came out in 2018, I started that project. We worked on it with the young designers. We kind of did the kickoff up in the archives after hours, and we showed them, here's this beautiful 50 panhead, and they use it. We actually gave it to the styling department. They put it in the bunker and used it, looked at it every day for 3 years. And so you can see a lot of those cues come out in that. And so something about that, that's really what drives my passion. Two things, really. Well, three things. Okay. Timelessness. I love that. I love the social aspect of motorcycling. And I think people underestimate that. It's a very social sport. That's why we do it. Cannonball is family. Motorcycling is family. It doesn't matter who you are, what walk of life, what gender, what race. When you're on a motorcycle, you wave. People in, Toyota Tercels don't wave to each other. People in motorcycles do, and it doesn't matter what you're on. And so that social aspect, I've met my mentors, the best people that I know in life, my best friends, through motorcycling. So that's a huge, huge aspect of it too. And the third thing is that I always boil down to, it's fun. That it's just plain and simple. It's fun. And I love to have fun. Don't ever doubt it. Whatever it may be, if it's really fun, I'll do it again.
That's an understatement, Bill.
If it's like that fun, I'll do it forever. So, motorcycling, and I just, I've met some great people. I'm blessed to work for a great family. The Davidson family are, like my extended family, and I consider them that close. And they get it. They're not figureheads. They ride old motorcycles. They collect them. They love them. They care about people that work for them. And so, and I have, I've got a really unique job, and like I say, a job's a job. You have good days, bad days. I have a lot more good days than bad days. And I have no desire to do anything, outside of what I do. I've been doing my same job for Harley Davidson for 17 years and then completely and utterly happy just being right where I'm at.
Well, with everything going on lately, one of the things that's kind of come out of this whole COVID thing is the new series that you have off the shelf. I really enjoy it. It's one of those things I check every day. Hey, is this new video coming out? It's been really great to see what's on the shelf in the archives. So tell me what your favorite bike is in the archives.
Oh boy, my question to that always is, what day is it? I've got a lot of favorites. Our 58 Dual Glide is, unbelievable. Our 1915 11J is the nicest on the planet, I always say. Where do you start? Beautiful FH hill climbers and, and I love mid 60s Italian lightweights. It's like a really nice, cool kind of race tank. Sprint H is a beautiful bike. There's just so many wonderful things. And, even I'll say, how'd you get into motorcycling? My parents were against it. I couldn't have a mini bike. I couldn't have any of that thing. But my parents golfed, and they belonged to a country club. And so I didn't golf. I was young, but I'd get to go along and drive the golf cart that had that Harley Davidson emblem on the front. And I felt like I was like my brother who had his 72 Super Glide with the same emblems. And, I was cool, and so, it's, everything that across the board, it's just too hard to pick one. It really is.
I could imagine. I'm in just complete awe every time I'm there. And, I'm secretly hoping sometime I'm up in your area that you could say you got to go to the bathroom and I can just have 10 minutes by myself.
He knows better.
Yeah, the one really great thing that I always tell people, and a lot of people don't realize about our collection, whether it be motorcycles or posters or marketing literature and all that stuff, is it's all saved. It's what I always call brand new, meaning that when it got printed or when they built that motorcycle, they pulled it off the assembly line, put it in our collection, and it's remained there. So, approximately 85% of our bikes are brand new, never been run, in our collection. Marketing literature, we saved every photographic negative of everything they ever took. Clothing, pins, watches, fobs, 1 million artifacts, 500 motorcycles, and it's all the real deal, unrestored, never been messed with, never been molested. So there's nicks and chips and dings and things like that on them, but that's part of that, of the whole history of it. And, I'm just the caretaker at this point in my life. There were people before me, there'll be people after me. I'm just blessed to be the guy that does it, at this point.
So are we going to get to see your bikes, your Cannonball bikes?
Sure, if you want to. I got one of them on the hoist here.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Let's see it.
Yeah, give us a little tour. Let us see what a Cannonball.
Can you see that?
Yeah. So tell us about this thing, man. What? Wow.
Yeah, so this is my 2016 Cannonball bike. This is what I rode across the country on then. It's a 1915 Harley Davidson Model 11K. It's an 11 horsepower twin, single speed board track racer. It's a little different configuration than when I ran it across the country. I've got a spring fork on it that I built. When I ran it across the country, I had a rigid fork. And
Oh boy.
yeah, right after I ran, believe it or not, I got on the racetrack because I do race this with a group of guys, Mike Lang and all the great guys. They let me go out and get in their way. But I went out with that rigid fork, and I tell you what, the front end was just hopping all over the place. I said, I got to get something on it when I get on the track. So I did. I've changed it since. But when I rode across the country, it was rigid. Pedal start. It's got a freewheel clutch here in the rear, so I could actually, the board trackers in 15 had that, so you could engage or disengage the rear wheel. So it wasn't direct drive like 16 and later board trackers. So it's kind of an oddball. It's got a brake on the other side, kick back on the pedals here to brake it. No front brake. I didn't run that. Drop bars and a Messenger racing saddle. That's how I went.
And you rode how many miles, Bill?
So I got to remember, the first one I did just shy of 2,000 in 2010. And then this one, Jason, I have to look it up. I think I did like 2,600 or something like that of 3,200. I didn't quite get all the miles. I had a couple days. I had a pretty sketchy day in the rain one day. And then we had that really horrible rain day. And I didn't run that day. I just was, I was pretty zapped in the head. And I just, decided to sit one day out and don't regret it at all.
Hey, I got to ask for some clarity. You said kickback on the pedals for the brake, so literally it's a coaster brake.
No, there's actually behind the freewheel clutch, there is a drum brake, and then there's kind of a one-way, almost like a clock spring on the other side that allows it to pull the brake arm, and it's an expanding shoe brake, believe it or not.
Wow.
And that's what they ran literally on the board trackers in 1915. This was Harley Davidson's first year of actually competing on the boards. And so what's kind of fun about this bike is in 2016, when we were in Dodge City, that was a really huge race for Harley Davidson that year. 4th of July, Dodge City, 1915. We took the top 6 out of 7 positions, including first through third. And so the track, believe it or not, is still there in Dodge City. It's kind of a cornfield, but there's a little tiny historical marker. So I was lucky enough, Paul Dorlins was taking tintypes, and he says, when do you want to shoot yours? I said, I got mine all planned out. So we took the bike out into to the original track and put on some period clothing, and he shot a tintype. And it was kind of spooky. There was literally old wooden railroad cars out there and some dead trees. And he shot an amazing photo. And then he shot me and my daughters too. And, he just did a wonderful job with doing those original tintypes.
You got any tricks going on inside that motor?
No, nothing. I was always a little different. Guys were always kind of doing things. I'm a big fan of what they originally did. So I'm a cast iron, the original cast iron pistons. This motor was a standard bore motor with pistons that were like new. So we just did a quick hone. Mike Lang kind of helped me out and looked over my shoulder on this one and honed it out. We made some new rings for it. And I'm still running the original cast iron pistons that are in this bike since new.
That's amazing.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
Yeah. Lucky to find it like that. That's beautiful. I got a great tractor guy
that's in Iowa that does my magnetos for me. He's an old timer. He's in his 80s. He does all the magnetos for the John Deere Heritage Center Museum, and so he does my magnetos for me. And good shout out to John Boyens and pretty much everything else I fabricated on this bike myself. I got a great friend that helped me out with the gas tanks, Rick, and Mike Lang and I did the frame, and I made the fender, and Tom Faber handlebars, and everything else is real.
Nice. Very nice.
So what's now that we've got a in look into the last Cannonball bike, what's on the lift now that you're working on?
Well, so I just put this on the lift, but literally, I'm going to jump back here. What I'm working on right now is I'm building a real factory 1954 KR racer that was actually campaigned by Roger Soderstrom, who was a dealer in Bloomington, Illinois. And I'm building that bike for the Born Free Motorcycle Show in September. Shout out to Mike and Grant.
Yeah, great guys.
You can do that here.
All right. We love the Born Free Show. It's first time I've been to the show, first time I was ever invited. And so it's kind of funny because, everybody, does these amazing, crazy, and I watch these builds of these choppers that they build, and they go, do you want to bring a bike? And I go, you don't want one of my bikes. I'm kind of, pretty strictly, I buy the book, I do restorations and that. And they go, no, it's cool. If you want to build a bike, we want you to have it. And I said, well, I'm doing this Roger Soderstrom KR, and it's real, and it's got all the provenance, and we've got all the programs where it was at Springfield in 54 and 55 and Peoria. And the guy I'm building it for actually has all of his memorabilia. And so pretty excited to do that. And I'm really, really close. Just getting the paint mixed for the tank today. I'll shoot that, and I'm ready for final assembly.
Nice. I've been watching the progress with it on Instagram, and it's really coming together. It's going to be beautiful, and I'm sure the people out in California at Born Free will totally dig what's going on there. So,
yeah, I hope so. I'm just looking forward to it. I'm just really, honored to be a part of it, and to even be asked to be out there with some of the great builders that are there. And I'm truly humbled, and it'll be fun, and I'm really looking forward to it. And so we're lucky enough that it didn't get canceled. It got postponed, and hopefully it'll still go down.
I know, I'm so bummed. This was going to be the first year ever that I was going to get to make Born Free and really make an attempt to be there and hang out. And unfortunately, they rescheduled for the grand finale of our race this year. So
yeah, they're
a little
kind
bummed
of
on that
overlap.
point, but can't make everything.
Well, and I'm kind of bummed about that too. My plan was to go to Arkadelphia to see my good friend Scott Bird, and that's the overnight stop, and the halfway, and to see everybody and cheer everybody on. And I was looking forward to being down there, and go cheer on my good buddy Chris Tribby, who's going to be in it again this year. But unfortunately, I'll be in California. So,
right. So, what's your thought on all these guys that are going to ride single-cylinder motorcycles this year? You've done it in the first one. What they're up against. What's your thoughts?
I love it. I think it's the only way to go. I mean, if you really want to, kind of prove it something, and that's more of a personal thing, than going out to win it. I was never, ever in it to win it. And some people are, and that's fine. But for me, it was, kind of a special thing. What I always like to say about that whole thing is that, you never really seen the United States until you've seen it at 35 miles an hour.
That's the truth.
That's good.
So just kind of reading some of the comments here on Facebook. People are asking, well, how many singles are riding this year? And I think at this point we have 14 or 15 that are confirmed for singles. So it'll be a little bit exciting to see these guys, really take the challenge of what's ahead of them on it. Everybody's thinking, oh, we're not going to do a Rocky Mountain range or anything like that. Well, I can guarantee you that this is no walk in the park on this thing. So.
Yeah. And we all know how well Dean did in 2016. I remember in 2010, Dave Cafton had his 12, and, he'd half a dozen spokes every day, and he was just like, I keep breaking these spokes, and so he'd have to take the tires off and re-spoke, and it was crazy, my bike really mechanically in 10 was great, but I was chain drive too, which is different. That belt drive, now you're adding a whole different layer, to be there in a leather belt and you get a rainy day and all those sorts of things, they just completely compound. And, especially if it's a rainy day. And, I remember day 2 of 2010, we were in North Carolina and it's super hilly and Dave was just, had to throw in the towel. And I remember the same thing when we were in, we got that super crazy rainy day in New Mexico. It was actually, believe it or not, the most recorded rain since 1927 in one day in New Mexico. And we were out there riding through that stuff. And it was miserable and the roads were washed out and they had to put us on the interstate and things like that. And so, that you're out there on a interstate with semis going by at 80 miles an hour in a construction zone on a belt drive Harley, it's pretty scary. It's pretty scary stuff,
I know a lot of people.
I just remember getting back to the hotel that night and Lonnie just really, really being upset. And I said, how you doing? And he's like, man, I just don't want anyone to die today, until he heard that everybody was in. I just remember he was just a mess. And, I really felt for him. That's where I really, it hit me that he was a promoter and he was, am I in above my head kind of a thing. That was a really, touch and go moment for all of us.
Quick social media thing here. Lloyd wants to see your cocktail, Lloyd Benson.
Lloyd always knows I got a cocktail going on, right?
Lloyd wanted to make sure you had a cocktail.
Absolutely.
I see Joe Skaggs. Bubba, how you doing out there? Chris and Pat were saying some things. Maybe Heather can back us up on that. I'm not sure.
Right.
A lot of people saying hi to you, Bill.
Beautiful. Love to all of them. And I got to tell Missy, I saw Missy on the camera there. Missy, you are looking marvelous these days.
He really is.
There she is.
So, before we go here, let's just get your number one, what's the word I'm looking here? Your number one memory of all Cannonball. It could be from 2010, 2016, support. I want to hear what your most memorable memory is.
There's a million of them, obviously, like you say, and there were great moments with my kids, coming across the finish line in Santa Monica Pier, and my daughters were young and they were waving flags and crying, and that was a big moment. But I'll never forget one thing for me. And, and this goes to like motorcycling. It was the last day of 2016. We went up Highway 74 out of Palm Springs, I believe, and went up over the hill. It was a Sunday, and then down the backside of this. And it was like maybe 30, 40 miles. I don't remember, and to get to the lunch stop. And I just remember, as we were climbing up this thing, it's the road that's used in the movie It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, where they're driving and Jimmy Durante, crashes and kicks the bucket and all that stuff. And I just remember, the son, I'm coming to get you, Mama. And I got my bike ready, and I'm like, man, I don't know if I can make this hill and everything. But I just went in the bike. It was one of those days. The bike was running flawlessly. There was no one on the roads except maybe a couple of sport bike guys that were really hammering it. And so I'm in the hills, and I'm going, and the bike's eating up the hill, and I'm coming to get you, Mama. I'm coming. I just remember I was laughing thinking of that movie. And it was such a beautiful motorcycle ride. And I got done, and I got to the bottom of the hill, and I wanted to turn around and go back. And it's one of those places that I'd always, it it was maybe one of the greatest motorcycle roads I've ever been on, and just how everything was feeling and flowing that day, and it was great. And the other great one, it's real similar. Joe Gardella, who was on the first couple, Joe was on his 14, and I'll never forget, I'm doing the same thing. It's in North Carolina, and it was in this tree-covered canopy road in this national park, and you're just weaving. It was all downhill, and I was like thinking, man, I really got this bike. I'm doing great. And Joe's on this 14 sitting up, and that bike was just, a maniac. That thing was just amazing. And he came by, and I'm doing like, 35, thinking I'm really hot shit. And Joe came by me at about 65 and, kind of slapped me on the ass. And he's like scraping footboards with those big, long handlebars. And I just remember seeing that was the most beautiful sight I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, slow Joe, man.
Slow Joe. He's not slow at all.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Jason.
Well, I mean, it's been great having you on. Obviously, we could go for probably hours and hours.
Before we let him go, Jason, we do have one question that I want to break in with, because you guys can both answer this, I think. It's from Richard Dupree. He says, he's a lifetime touring rider with zero antique experience, but he'd like to get started in the Cannonball. Where's a good place for him to start?
Ooh, that's a
Find
good
an
question.
old bike.
Actually, really a lot of people that have started in the Cannonball that had zero antique experience came to an event. They came to a hosted stop. They, come to one of the parties. They come to the hotel parking lots and just see the logistics and talk to the riders that are competing in there. And, the best thing to do is to really ask a lot of questions. All of our Cannonball family is super open. They love to share ideas. They love to share their experiences.
Yeah.
All you have to do is not be shy and ask a question.
Yeah.
Just go out and find a bike.
Yeah. And that, and like Jesus, find a mentor. There's a lot of great mentors out there that, another thing to do is get involved in maybe crew for somebody and really see what it's all about. And rather than getting on the bike and doing it, but being there for the support and seeing what the daily grind is, because it is a grind. It's one thing to go out and tour and do it, do 200-300 miles a day. But when you start doing it on something like that and you do it 16 days in a row, it's a whole different world. So just being into that routine, up at 5 a.m., not getting to bed till midnight, not eating really well and all that sort of thing, but supporting your team, get on and, drive a support truck and, you'll learn just oodles and just stand and watch people. There were so many people that I met that were just like, I'm on so-and-so's crew, and they just come and hang out and watch. And, and they eventually got into it, and, now they're riding. And so, that's a great way to get started.
Vinny Grasser also said, join the Antique Motorcycle Club of America. And that's a great way to get started.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just reading some comments here on Facebook and YouTube that we're coming across. And, some of the past riders and some of the riders that are taking part in this next event said, hey, this is exactly what I did. I just got out there, got involved, went to a stop, got hooked, and went out and bought a bike,
Yeah, absolutely. I remember Steve DeCosta kind of hey, I'm going to do this. And he was kind of coming around at Davenport and he'd buy some parts and he was building bikes and stuff, and he became one of the most wicked riders out there. Him and Joan are just fantastic. And
for sure,
Joan's as good a crew person as ever. And she's right there cleaning that bike every night. And
she's the crew chief.
Yeah, no doubt about it. She's the chief of chiefs, man. And so, stuff like that. That's how watching it and getting involved. But I really think, if you can make it through a whole Cannonball being a crew and you still want to be involved, then you got the bug.
I can attest to that. Hey, I'm running out of battery, guys. How are you guys doing?
It's cocktail time for me.
Yeah, I think so.
I came unprepared.
Bill, we're gonna have to bring you back, I think, at some point.
Anytime,
Yeah,
I love
yeah,
to do it, but you got to
absolutely.
get someone else on. There's a lot of riders and
Oh,
a
we're
lot
gonna-
of people with great stories, but
We
guys,
are. We're
it's
going to
been-
start getting into them.
It's been my pleasure, and you know, to be a part of this tonight. And you know, it's such a great thing, and it's you know, changed my family's life, changed my life, and so to be a part of it, and you know, all these great people out there. It was really my honor to be, you know, your first guest on here, and I'm very thankful that you even considered me. It was kind of fun. Last night I was doing another life-changing moment. I was on a Zoom call, did a virtual tour of the museum with 24 wounded warriors, and
Oh, wow.
I've given probably a couple thousand tours in my life there, and you know, I mean, for everything from, you know, high-ranking politicians to, you know, movie stars, rock stars, it doesn't matter. And I tell you what, last night was the first time I actually kind of got nervous doing a tour, but they were great. It was supposed to be a half hour, it went over an hour. And so it's been a fun couple nights, you know, working here and doing this and doing that, different, but equally fulfilling for me as well. So
Well,
thank you
Yeah,
very
absolutely.
much.
Thank you for being here for number one. We really appreciate it.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm coming to Milwaukee soon.
That's good, because I was going to show that sheet metal on here and thought, well, maybe if Cole was interested,
Oh, no.
or I know
Don't.
Buck Carson's always got a couple extra shekels in his pocket, and they're kind of BL guys. I figured I got this sheet metal that some Cannonball guy left laying around here that I could, you know, possession's 9/10 of the law.
There you go.
I'm glad you didn't say who owned that, because my wife is watching right now.
And a shout out to our wives, man. A shout out
Yeah,
to our
absolutely.
wives.
Yes. All of them.
Absolutely. Amen. So, well,
So
what do you think, Rob?
about- Yeah, I think maybe we got to pull this train into the station for tonight. You know, it's a Cannonball train, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The circus.
I had a great time, man, and I hope everybody out there really enjoyed it. And we hope to bring you a lot of interesting folks, talk about their backgrounds and whatnot. I see my daughter came on tonight and talked about her experience with her first time with motorcycles and whatnot. And just a shout out to everybody who joined us tonight. Thank you so much. We had a great time. We'll get more to your comments in upcoming shows, and we'll see what happens. And Cole, that's not your sheet metal.
No, I want to thank everybody also. You know, we want to bring this to you every week. We have some really great people behind us that, you know, that kind of make the Cannonball happen. Some really great sponsors, the Law Tigers, Legends Vintage Motorcycles, Haggerty Motorcycle, Greg Allen Insurance, our friends over at American Anchor, my
Gumby.
good buddy, Brian Bozier of Sinless Cycles, the guys at Lowbrow Customs, one of our favorite people, Vicky with the Road Guardians, and of course, one of my good staff members, Felicia from Scooter Scribes. We have great support from the Antique Motorcycle Club of America. We have great support from you guys out there, our fans that come and see us when we're at the stops, the people that comment on our Facebook posts that we put out there, our Instagram posts. Keep it coming. We love it. We try to respond to everything. If you have any good or unique content, please send it to us. We like to share that kind of stuff. You know, we just want to make sure that you share what we're doing here. If you have any comments, please send them to us. If there's somebody that you want to see on this show or you think they have a good story, again, please reach out to us. We value all your guys' comments, and we want to give you guys, the listeners, what you want to hear. So, you know, shout out.
And that space at the top of the screen that says Retro Cycle, if you want to own that space and sponsor, we're open to you guys doing that. So
Absolutely.
with your help, we can bring you a lot more great shows.
Again, a lot of this wouldn't happen without our friends here at the Cycle Source Network. Thanks for everything that they do behind the scenes.
Yeah, let's hear it for those guys.
Really-
Great job, Chris. Thanks a lot. Heather, Missy.
We've really put this thing together in record fashion. You know,
they
it's
are.
something, like
Yeah.
I said, that we've talked about for a long time, but when we pulled the trigger and it shot fast. So, you know, thanks to all these guys to putting our hard work into it for the last, really last week or so and to make this happen. And, you know, again, we'll be back next Wednesday, 9 p.m. EST. That's 9 p.m. Eastern time, and we're, you know, we'll have another great show for you. We'll be sending out some ads
So 9
here soon.
9 p.m.'s an estimate, is what you're telling me, right? There's a story behind that. We'll let that go.
We like to call it ish.
Ish.
Ish. It's motorcycle time. It's universal.
There we
Oh
go.
man, this has been fun. I really had a good time tonight.
It has.
Thanks to Bill and Michael. Man, they really made the first show a lot of fun. And Chris,
Absolutely.
thanks for making it happen.
I'm honored to be here, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
All right.
Rob, for pushing
Bye,
us.
everybody.
See ya.